Hi everyone, I am Rebecca from ChemKnits, and today we are finally going to use up this leftover neon dye that I've been using in so many videos. And hilariously, I'm wearing the same dress as I'm doing this voiceover, so I just noticed that, and that's awesome. Right now I am bringing 300 grams of dry stroll fingering weight yarn into a pan. And I have no idea what is in the pan. Clearly some water. Oh, I'm going to add vinegar. So I'm adding 3 tablespoons of white vinegar, and I'm probably going to add, some more water, another 8 cups. I'm assuming this was a leftover dye bath from another project. Now, these neon dyes that I'm using, I have now used in, 3 other videos. There was the rainbow yarn mop video, then I used this for the pastels in Hanukkah, and then more recently for the glazing video with Hanukkah. Oh wait, did I use these again for another glazing Dye Pot Weekly? So maybe another video. But I've sped this up about 200%, I think, so it's not that much faster than normal. And on this first colorway, I'm adding very angular lines of what I believe was fluorescent lemon, fluorescent hot magenta. I don't remember the fluorescent color in Dharma. Oh, the green is radioactive. The orange is fluorescent safety orange. I'm totally blanking on that pink color. I had used up the last of the frozen. Oh no, this is black. Or maybe it's a black and blue mixture from one of the other videos, and I'm adding it randomly on to give us this light and dark contrast. Part of this colorway is very reminiscent from what I created for Halloween. I actually dyed this before that Halloween video where I played with neons in orange, green, and purple, and then added black speckles over it. But this type of neon with a dark overlay is something that towards the end of 2020 I was really excited to play with. I probably let the yarn set for a little bit before flipping it because fluorescent colors can take a little bit more time to set, and I didn't entirely want them to blend completely together. The goal, it wasn't that I was going for a rainbow. I really wanted to use up these leftover colors because they weren't really dye stocks. These were leftover powders from a video that I dissolved in some water and then used on many projects. And so if they were 1% stock solutions, I would have been more comfortable holding on to them to use in another project, but I was ready for these to be done so that way I could make some 1% stocks. I like doing these curves. This is going to give us some nice random, not really pooling sections of the black, even though there will be semi-repeating sections of the other colors. Now I am out of the green, and so I don't know if I'm out of the other colors. I do know that there's a second colorway coming up, so I know what colors I had left over. But there's that little benefit of having some hindsight. What is the fluorescent? Is it fluorescent fuchsia? What is it? Okay, I'm going to pause and look this up. The color is fluorescent fuchsia. Given that I was playing with hot fuchsia from Jacquard recently, sometimes it's hard to keep track of the different color names between different brands. Now, all of these colors are a lot of fun because if I knew where my black light was, they do glow under a black light, which is fun if that is something that you enjoy. But I personally just really like the brightness. Okay, I rinsed out my containers of the yellow and the green to add a little bit more of those colors down there. But this colorway is definitely mostly the pink and orange, although okay, I was looking at the yarn here, and the way I had it twisted, I didn't really see a lot of that pink. So I was feeling a little confused. I'm like, did it disappear? No, it did not disappear. And I added some more acid so that way we could get the colors to set completely. And some more water, I guess. A lot of times with fluorescent colors, you need to heat the yarn and then let it cool in the dye bath completely for all of those colors to strike. Something to keep in mind is that less can be more with some of these colors. I would not dye yarn at a 1% depth of shade with these fluorescent colors. Oh, I've got a yarn mop. Oh, I must use this for the next colorway, because I was like, I don't think I have any yarn for yarn mop. Oh, this was a fun idea. I took the next yarn, which may or may not be dry, I can't really tell, and I laid it on top to help soak up some of those leftover colors and just to show the color transfer. Oh, that's cool. Rebecca, that was a good idea, past self. I'm giving myself a little pat on the back. So sometimes you might be impatient waiting for those colors to strike, and sometimes you might want to add a yarn mop in just because you want to be able to move on and dye something else. And so that's what I did right here, and now I'm removing the first colorway. Oh, that was really interesting. Oh, yep, and we see some bleeding because I didn't let it cool completely. This is another reason why you don't want to wash hand-dyed yarn in hot water. That can cause bleeding. It can disrupt the interaction between your acid dyes with your yarn. And I guess it's also worth saying that for acid dyes, you need to dye a protein-based yarn. This won't work on cotton or synthetics like acrylic or polyester. Sometimes I get questions about, hey, can I use this recipe on cotton? And unfortunately, no. You'll want to use a fiber reactive dye on cotton. Okay, why the bleeding? So at the time of filming this, I knew I was going to be doing a time lapse. And I totally forgot that I did that I wrote myself a message. Okay, so at the time, I really was not sure about the bleeding. This time, that was our fluorescent fuchsia, and here we're coming in with some purple pop, which is a color people love or hate because of the bleeding. And I think that the pink in both of these is the same molecule, so it's that same thing that's bleeding. And I was absolutely concerned that using this all up, that it would cause some bleeding. There isn't a good fluorescent blue acid dye, which is sad. I often use Frozen as a fluorescent blue, but that really may not be the best color to use, but I like the hue with the other fluorescent neon colors, so that's what I end up using a lot. But the green and so radioactive and purple pop are mixtures, I think, of, in purple pop it's a fluorescent fuchsia with some kind of blue in it. I love yarn. Oh, Rebecca, I'm just having a little bit of fun. That's so funny. I totally forgot about that. I think I filmed this over a month ago from when I'm doing the voiceover. And now I'm going to just randomly add more color. But anyway, the purple pop has a pink and then a blue, and the blue strikes faster and the pink spreads. The green is also a mixture of a blue and probably a yellow, and the blue strikes and the yellow spreads. So both of those are colors that do break. Whereas, actually, I guess the orange does break. That might be a mixture of the yellow and the pink. Huh. I wonder. It's possible there's some other pigments. I don't know much about the actual mixtures of different colors that are within acid dyes. I think that's something I could probably find out, but since it's not something that's written on the tubs, it's not an easy thing for me to look at and get a good understanding of as I'm playing with colors. But I am absolutely finding that the more I play with acid dyes, the more I am learning and growing and understanding with how these colors will interact with each other. Aw, some hearts. Am I going to use up the rest of this dye too? Probably. I think I used, actually I have no idea what the black was. There's some blacks that I used in some other Leave It or Die Behind videos that may or may not be coming out before or after this. It can be hard to know at times, but I definitely let this simmer for a bit, and then I'm going to add more water, which probably has some acid in it. I would guess it has some acid, and I'm checking the bleeding. Oh, there I go. I'm adding some more acid. And then I was going to probably let it cool in the pan, most likely, because of that bleeding. I would bring it up to a simmer and then turn it off and let it cool. And here we are, cool, and drumroll. I don't see bleeding, but we'll see when I remove the rest of the yarn. This is not sped up as fast as some of my other time lapses are. It's only twice as fast as real time. So I'm like, oh, okay, I see a hint of color, but most of it was in the yarn. And here we are washing in cool tap water. I guess I'm going to start with the pink because that's the one I just removed, and the barest hint of color. Given that I saw a little bit of color left in the pan, I'm not immediately concerned about that. When I get the most nervous is when you see a ton of color come out. But I'm filling up the pot or the basin, and then I'll add some dish soap soon, but it's not bad. It's not bad. I don't worry about faint hints as much. Sometimes I'll let the yarn soak in with some vinegar. I'm sure if that's what I did today, I will show it in some kind of way to give myself a little bit of clue as I'm sitting here analyzing. But also sometimes just some colors just need a little bit more rinsing. But when you're dealing with hand-dyed yarn, I recommend doing like a little rinse test before mixing it with a lighter color, or if you're going to block something knit with hand-dyed yarn, maybe doing that on its own first before mixing it with something else, just in case there is bleeding, because different tap water can react differently. My tap water is slightly acidic, so if you have more alkaline tap water, you might see more bleeding. But I am seeing bleeding. And I'm sure that right now what I would probably do is add some vinegar in, but it doesn't look like I did that because I didn't show it. So I'm probably just soaking and pretty close. But each time I'm like, okay, this will be the last time. And then, no, some more. But I know, oh, that's looking better. It's definitely getting better, so that's good. It's just these fluorescent colors sometimes can be a little bit of a pain, which is why you do not want to add too much. Okay, here we have our it's sunset with green. I'm not sure what to call it, but it's a fun neon. I'm not seeing any bleeding this time. And I'm going to add some dish soap. The soap isn't absolutely necessary, but sometimes bleeding will be caused by the soap, so it's good to know. But again, I recommend do a little bleed test before you block. That way you know how to handle and behave with the yarn. But now, let's look at the dry yarn. I love bright, happy neon yarn, and I love the pops of the bright and the dark. And I think that filming this video and filming the rest of the Hanukkah videos in general really inspired me to try that Halloween colorway, and that is something that I really want to play around with so much more in the future. This one is almost a sunset. Almost, but not quite, and that is fine. But we have these patches of the green and the yellow, orange and pink, and they really didn't blend together too much. You can see a little bit in between the orange and the pink where I layered them over one another, but it's just a happy and fun. The three colorways aren't identical, but they are very, very similar. If I told you that this purple and pink and blackish colorway was just done with purple pop, you would probably believe me, because as I said, it breaks. But there is a lot of pink in here because we had a lot of pink left over, and those sort of purpley blue notes are pretty subtle. The color penetration here is pretty good. There are some areas that are a little more pastel and a little deeper, but a lot of that pink did penetrate really, really far into the yarn. I am Rebecca from ChemKnits, and I really hope that you have been enjoying the whole 2020 ChemKnits Hanukkah special, and that you enjoy all this leftover and brightness and fun that we are having here right now. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to the ChemKnits Tutorials YouTube channel. Press that bell icon to turn on notifications so you never miss a new video. And we're not done with 2020. There's a lot more fun yarn and beautiful colors coming up, and you don't want to miss any of it. If you love the yarn I dye and want to bring some home to work with, go and check out the ChemKnits Creations Etsy shop. Most of the yarn I dye in my videos ends up in the shop, and so you can buy some yarn, create something wonderful, and rewatch me dye the yarn at the same time, which just adds another fun element of a handmade quality to your project. I am Rebecca from ChemKnits, and thank you so much for watching.